back to the channel, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining today. We are back on the KCS Greenville Sub for our third operations video. Today we're going to run the local. You can sort of call it a local. You can almost call it a way freight that runs from Hughes Springs to Jefferson and then returns. In the real KCS, or CPKC at this point, I have no earthly idea how they switch the industries in Jefferson as they go from Hughes Springs to Shreveport or back. I don't know if they use a way freight. I don't know if they have a special local. I don't know. I've never looked into it. So this is potentially completely made up. But you know what? That's the beauty about our railroading. We can make it what we want. Alright, so in Hughes Springs Yard, we've got our cars on track 4, which is the track that starts with the TTX F-Box car there, the yellow one. And that is our cut. It has not been blocked for us as far as destinations on the local, but it has been at least classified, so we only have cars that were taken for our trip. But one of the first things we're going to need to do is figure out which of these cars are actually going out today. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the switch list for that. So we've got our 3 Jeep 38s from the house we're pulling out. And then let's see, here in Hughes Springs, we're going to leave with 15, 8 loads and 7 empties. We can see they're all on track 4 for the eastbound local, and they're all heading 3 going to the track in Avinger, and the rest are going to Jefferson, which makes sense. These are the only 2 locations switched out by this local. There is quite a bit of stuff there in Jefferson, and you can see that eventually a few of them are actually going to go all the way to Shreveport. Cars that are empty and stay empty, it's not going to give us a final destination track because it doesn't know where it's going to send them yet, and that's on purpose. Because the way I have it set up here in JMRI is when a car becomes empty, it doesn't give a final destination, so once it gets picked up, it can go anywhere it is needed. But of course, a lot of them will still end up going out to staging. And then let's see, once we get to Avinger, we're going to have 4 pickups. I do believe there's 5 cars on that spur currently. Everything's hoppers, of course, and then we're going to set out 3, so that's not bad. And then let's see, oh, we're going at least 1 car to each of the different staging. That's fun. And then when we get to Jefferson, this is where it gets pretty busy. So quite a few pickups. We'll actually do these, well, depending on the layout, usually I like to do pickups first. It might depend. I might just switch out industry by industry. We'll see. Assuming or treating this train rather like it's a way freight, it probably would make more sense to do this industry by industry. But these are more or less classified by their final destination here on the switch list. Even though our train will not take them to those destinations, it will just bring them back to the yard. These are all the ones that we're going to be picking up. So you can see quite a bit of cars at the railcar service where they repair them, maintain them, all that kind of stuff. A couple of chip cars. Let's see, what else we got here for setouts? Yes. Ooh, look at this. We have 3 moves. You don't see this often on locals, on any of my railroads actually. But that's because we have 2 cars that are going to become empty. And once they become empty, they're going to be shipped over to the railcar services to get some maintenance, routine maintenance. And then we have 1 from the railcar service that's actually going to end up getting dropped off at West Fraser, I guess, to be loaded with packaged mulch. Not bad. Not bad at all. And then, of course, we'll leave Jefferson with 23 cars. We will not work Avinger because it's a facing point switch, so that doesn't make any sense. And then we'll get back into Hughes Springs, and if we have time, we'll get to switch all these out. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, we've got where they're going in the Hughes Springs yard. So that's what we hand to the yard crew. And then we have the final destination track, which is actually this next little line here because my font's just a little bit too big. That tells us where they're eventually going, but we don't actually need that. That's really more for the yard crew, but at least it gives us a bit of a heads up. You know, if we wanted to be nice and do some pre-blocking, we could, but we don't have to. Anyways, that's our work for today. So our first job today, as part of this train, is to actually pull the entire track and put all the cars that we're not taking back onto track 4. So at the time we were doing this, track 5 was empty, and so we took the liberty, since track 5 is not very far away, to just move all of the cars we're taking with us on the track 5 and to shove the 3 or 4 cars that were staying back onto track 4 so that we wouldn't have to move them back later. And once that move is done, we'll just put our train right back together like you see, get our last couple of kicks done, and then get right on out of town. So this is us moving through Avinger. Pretty much the only thing from Avinger that we actually modeled here is the overpass there in Avinger. It is not a double track overpass, it is just a single track. Naturally, we go, or I rather refer you back to the liberties of model railroading. But right around the next corner is going to be our first industry we're going to work. It is a bulk transload spur. I just have it for now called Avinger Bulk. Really original name there. First thing we're going to do is come in and drop the brakeman off at the switch. Our first cars that are getting dropped off here are not necessarily anywhere near the front of our train, so we're going to go ahead and cut the power though once we drop them off, and that way we can take all the pickups and just put them right here at the head end. So now that he's dropped off, we'll go ahead and keep moving. I forgot actually that we're going to cut the power after we move a little bit closer to the switch, which makes sense. We don't want to make our brakeman walk too far. That's obviously ridiculous. Why would we do that? We're lazy railroaders out here. So the one car that we're leaving is the yellow C&W hopper, and I realized that fishing that one guy out was actually quite a bit of work. So I think all in all it was like 10 or 11 moves or even more to grab the other 4, get that C&W car put back, and then also to get our 3 setouts. But in a bit of fairness, if I had blocked the train in the yard before we came out here, this would not have taken so much time. And so, that lets me talk briefly about operations, which of course I love to talk about. If you have an industry like this that's on the main line that you want to switch with a local or a way freight, if you have a really busy main line and you need to try to keep it clear, then you definitely want to pre-block your train so that you don't have to spend a lot of time making moves like this out next to an industry. In our case, on this railroad, as is true of the real one, there are not actually very many trains that go through here on a given day, and especially since I'm doing it right now by myself. So we really had all the time in the world. But, if I have a few operating sessions, or if I were to actually build this, in scale and operate it, if I were to realize that it's gumming up the main line and causing delays, I would definitely, make the yard crew block it before they ship it. So that's something to consider in your operations as you experiment, as you plan. And you may plan one thing and then realize that reality is completely different and make changes, and that's the beauty of it. If you want to do it right and you want to enjoy it and really get the best out of it, it's probably going to change from what you initially thought it was. But here we've got 2 more industries. You can kind of see that we're eventually going to switch out. Way back in the back on the left, we've got the LPG terminal there in Jefferson, which I do believe, if I saw it correctly, is an actual place for offloading those things. And then, of course, we have West Fraser, which is a chip mill. But a brief pause as we step off to the siding and clear the main. This is, I guess, in the pre-CPKC days, this would have been the MSH DT. Well, no, actually no, because it's an intermodal. Yeah, that's right. It would have been an intermodal train from Shreveport to Dallas. So I guess what, ISHDA? Yeah. I forget what they call the intermodal train now. It's I something. It's got a number code, but I forget what it is. I know the one that goes from Shreveport to Artesia, Mississippi is M266. That's a manifest train. For intermodals from Shreveport to Dallas, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I'm sure some of you guys probably know. But yeah, for this one I'm modeling just before the initial offer of the CP to take over the KCS. So before any sort of operations were brought together, I guess that would put us all the way back in either 2021 or maybe even 2020. But as was prototypical, the intermodal train going from Shreveport to Dallas, and even still true to this day, does sometimes carry just general freight near the end, or sometimes even at the beginning. But it's usually a block of intermodal double stacks fixed together with, general cargo and merchandise and things like that. I also have learned recently that the terminal there in Wiley on the northeast side of Dallas also takes auto racks now to be loaded. So they got a couple of ramps there, which is awesome. I do like those big articulated auto rack cars. It's hard to explain why I like them. They're imposing, I guess. That's why I like them. They're just so much taller than everything else. When I list them in JMRI, I list both sections as one individual car. So it's like one car that's, 150 feet long or something, however long it is in real life. I looked it up, I just forgot. All right, well, now that the intermodal's out of the way, we can get back on the main and get to doing our switching. So all three of these cars are actually getting picked up. One of them, I believe, is going to go back with us to Hughes Springs, and two of them are getting set out at another industry just down the road here. I might actually have that backwards, but I do think that is correct. It's on the switch list, but I don't have it in front of me right this second. Here we are crossing the UP main line in Jefferson. It's an old TNT line. If you're a big Texas and Pacific fan, that one's for you. And now that we're done with the LPG terminal, we're going to move over to West Fraser. So one thing I do know about West Fraser is at least from what I read, it loads out wood chips. I don't know if it makes mulch or not. I decided for my model that it would ship out mulch in boxcars as a byproduct. I do know that they have something with boxcars because you can see them on the Google image from the satellite. But I haven't done a ton of looking to see if they load them or if they receive something with them. But essentially for us, for our sakes, we take wood chips in. Sorry, we actually load wood chips. I apologize. And the byproduct of wood chip production is just turned into mulch that we package. So boxcars occasionally bring in packaging materials for those bags of mulch for consumers, but that's about it. We have moved on now to the bulk terminal in Jefferson. It's very similar to the one in Avinger. In fact, it has the exact same schedule in JMRI, so it receives the same car types, same car loads. It's only for delivering loads. There's no loading here. Once again, tracks like that are, akin to old team tracks, and they're for serving industries that don't have direct rail link, so they transload at local tracks like that. And now here we are at one of my favorite industries on the route. This is TNT Railcar Services. Thank you to everyone almost a year ago now who did some research to help me learn a bit about this. I appreciate it. They are a railcar repair and maintenance service. All I've seen on Google is that they that they repair tanks and boxcars. It's possible they do more than that, but for our purposes on the model today, they're just going to do tanks and boxcars. And we have them all ship in as empties, and they ship out as empties. I do know in the real world you can do certain repairs while a car is still loaded. I just chose not to bother with that. But we ended up having 6 tank cars to pull out this time. And I think it was 8 boxcars altogether. So, think about it. If this is a model railroad and we're pulling 14 cars out of one industry, for some model railroads, that's an entire train length. So this local, though, is limited to 1,500 feet. So I guess that's probably roughly 30 50-foot cars, which we get, I think, 1,490 feet, I think, on the trip back to Hughes Springs. So, but yeah, grabbing these box cars, we got a bit of a shuffle. But there's one fancy move that we probably saw right there, even though I didn't mention it. And that is there's one box car that's getting shipped from here, having been repaired, back to West Fraser. Well, that's a facing point switch, and in real life it's only, I think it's like less than 6 miles, less than 7 miles maybe. It's not super far. So essentially we're gonna, as you can see there, we've got that yellow box car in front, and we're gonna shove him all the way back to West Fraser and to get him set out. I tried to change up how that move would be done in JMRI, decided it wasn't worth the effort, so we're just going to let it be. So occasionally, as I run this train in the future, this might happen some more. But you never know, with randomness, it might not. For me personally, this randomness is certainly one of the things about JMRI that I mostly enjoy. It's just that opportunity to, with randomness alone, make sure that things don't get too repetitive. So I don't have everything set to 100% reduction. But there are quite a few things that have 100% reduction, which means that potentially JMRI, even though it could send cars, would choose not to send any. So that is a thing that I have created at times, and I definitely like it. But there are some times I don't. I don't necessarily want to build a train and have nothing to do. But we're just going to get a little pull through here. Both of these cuts, the one that's moving and the one that's static, are both going to go back with us to Hughes Springs, but we will have to show the yard work in Hughes Springs in another video. Thank you guys for watching. It's been fun. Hopefully you have enjoyed this local. More to come here on the KCS Greenville Sub as we start to get more stuff done. I think next up will be the UP. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching.